In the last stream, we were continuing on our journey to craft all of these creative items to finally complete the Sky Bees 2 mod pack. We were working on upgrading the processing speed of our netherite scraps, and we also set up some automation for the smelting of chorus fruit, and we also upgraded a bunch of our mechanism machines here to their ultimate variant to allow them to process resources as fast as they possibly can. And right now, we are very close to having enough netherite blocks to craft this creative fluid tank and thereby get us hopefully unlimited netherite using that tank. We need 24,000 netherite in total. Right now, we have 17,000, so we are just 7,000 blocks away. We have all of the netherite ingots available and ready to go. All we have to do is hit start, and as we set up in the last episode, we're going to see all of our crafters over here begin producing those blocks of netherite, and as you can see, it's hopefully not going to take us too long for that all to come through. Over here, we are very almost there on all of the singularities required to make the ultimate singularity. We are just missing 3. The aforementioned netherite singularity, the seared singularity, and the chorus singularity. So the seared bricks are here, but we do still have some salt in this compressor, which is why that's currently not working. If we take those out, that's going to start producing those seared brick singularities. Over here, the prismarine singularities are done, so we can take these away. And back over on our wall of compacting drawers, we should have this drawer full of chorus fruit. So what I will do here is I'm going to go ahead and take away this compacting drawer here, because we've actually smelted all of the chorus fruit that we had, and we can put that back down over in place of this compacting drawer. I do want to make sure we don't lose this, and so I'm going to take the slight extra step of precaution. I'm going to place down some stone blocks just to make sure that we don't lose this, because if we did, we would be in a very bad situation. So let's go ahead and take that. We'll replace it with one of these, and we'll also put the other drawer down, let's say right about here. Whoops, that's not the right one. I wanted to put down this one for the prismarine blocks, and I wanted to take the pop chorus fruit and get that producing its own singularities as well. And then, of course, after that, the final piece of the puzzle is just going to be the netherite blocks, which hopefully are not too far away. Again, gotta do this for some reason to make sure that that does actually work. Right now, we only need 8 of these in order to get the creative fluid tank. Once we have that, we can start working on getting the infinite netherite that we need. Speaking of which, let me quickly check how that's doing. It is done. Fantastic. So in that case, let's also go ahead and grab our blocks of netherite, which are somewhere on this wall. They are right about here. However, there is only 9,000 netherite in there. I'm not quite sure where the other netherite blocks have managed to go. It is quite possible we might have another drawer on the wall here with netherite in it. But what we can also do is we can do something like this, take out the block of netherite and just tell our system to export blocks of netherite into this drawer, and that should hopefully fairly quickly fill up with the 24,000 that we need, and then we can make the 8 netherite singularities, and of course then that's everything for the creative fluid tank. Whilst we wait for that to happen, there are other things that we kind of need to prepare for in order to craft all of these creative items. One of them is for the everlasting guilty pool here. This is a creative mana pool, and to make this, we need 12 full mana tablets worth of mana. Right now, we do have 1 mana tablet in the system. Making 11 more of these really shouldn't be too difficult for us. The only tricky part is going to be getting enough living rock. Getting 11 more mana diamonds is going to be very easy for us. Thankfully, our system for producing mana is still up and running. Over here, we've got 4 mana pools full of mana, and if I'm not mistaken, 4 mana pools full of mana should be approximately 8 mana tablets worth of mana, and so that's 2/3 of the mana tablets that we need already taken care of. And so real quick, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make as many of these mana tablets as we can, which apparently is 1. Over here, we should be able to get some more living rock fairly quickly, assuming we have some stone in the system, which we do. Let's go ahead and do a quick one of these, and essentially the plan here is just going to be to empty out the mana pools that we currently have and let our system continue to produce mana so that hopefully by the time we come to actually make the everlasting guilty pool, we do have enough mana for those mana tablets and we're not stood around waiting for mana to come in, because hopefully it will be coming in passively whilst we work on some of the other crafts required for these creative recipes. Back over here, slight problem, I think. I think what has potentially happened there is that I think our system has taken the netherite that we had in ingot form and then crafted it back into block form, which is not what we wanted to do. So we had 17,000 blocks. We then requested another 7,000. All it's done is it's taken the netherite out of this drawer, taken it away, turned it back into blocks, and put it back into the same drawer, which is not ideal. Thankfully, now that we've taken all of this out, and thankfully now that it's not connected to the system, we can go ahead and once again request the 7,000 netherite ingots. This is more like what we were expecting to see with the netherite scrap and the gold, and if we go ahead and hit start there, this is also what we were expecting to see with all of our molecular assemblers working on this crafting operation, because we set them all up in the last episode with the same recipe to allow everything here to work on producing that netherite for us. Again, unfortunately, all that netherite right now is just going to end up in the system. However, if we go ahead and tell our exporter here to export this as well, all of that netherite should make its way over into here eventually. Again, it is blocks we need, not ingots. We need 7,000 blocks, not 7,000 ingots, and so we can do this in batches of 4,250 and start. That's going to take a little bit longer because that is 37,000 netherite, not 7,000, but the first 7,000 did come in pretty quickly, and so hopefully getting those blocks shouldn't take us too long and should give us enough time to get all of the mana that we're going to need for these mana tablets. And not too long later, we now have 7 mana tablets, all full of mana, and of course we have more mana being produced, and so hopefully by the time we come back to this to make the everlasting guilty pool, we will have 4 more full mana pools. In fact, never mind, I have an 8th one right here. We will have 4 more full mana pools, enough for us to get the 4 remaining mana tablets, and that's going to be all good to go. So I'll put these in the system for now. Over here, this is, of course, still working on the netherite blocks. We are pretty close, though, on the netherite blocks. So, of course, we do have to request another 3,000 once this is done. But whilst we wait for all of the netherite to come in, the other thing that we were working on in the last stream was, of course, the ultimate ingots. And so down here, we prepped all of the resources for the ultimate ingot, apart from the one crucial resource, that being these blocks of Valdanium. These are by far the most difficult part of the craft. To make them, we need to get molten Valdanium and pull it out of a smeltery, and to make that molten Valdanium, we need slime steel, hepatizen, netherite, signalum, and enderium, and we need a block of each of these per 1 ingot of Valdanium. We did crunch the numbers in the last episode, and we did have enough of everything apart from enderium. Thankfully, again, it's been a couple of days since the last episode, and so now, enderium-wise, we have got 497,000 blocks, which is way more than, I think, the approximately 15,000 that we actually need to make all of the Valdanium that's going to be required. And so, in order to make this happen, we need to do 2 things. The first thing is that we need to make a much bigger smeltery. That's not strictly necessary, but I think it's going to make our lives a lot easier, because right now we are limited on how many ingots we can store inside of this smeltery, and making a much bigger smeltery is going to let us make more Valdanium at once. It's also going to allow us to pull out more blocks of Valdanium at once as well, and given that we do need, I think, 232 blocks of Valdanium in total, we are going to want a bigger smeltery. The second problem, and the slightly bigger problem, is that we need to automate the production of blazing blood, because this Valdanium is an alloy that can only be made with blazing blood. Up until now, we have been making blazes using the blaze DNA that we get from our FTB jars here, and then we've been placing that into the smeltery using the spawner. However, that's a little tedious, and given the amount of Valdanium that we need to make, we are going to need a ton of blazing blood. And so it's going to be worth automating the production of that blazing blood, ideally using a blaze spawner. My thought process here is that if we make 2 smelteries, we can have one smeltery that has a blaze spawner inside of it. That blaze spawner is then going to summon blazes. Those blazes will then die and produce blazing blood. We can then take that blazing blood, pump some of it background into the smeltery that's producing it in the first place, because I'm fairly certain that it will produce more than it uses, and then we can have all of the excess blazing blood pumped into the second, much larger smeltery, which is where we are going to make all of our Valdanium. Now, to do that, we are, of course, going to have to take some seared bricks. Thankfully, we have got a ton of them over here. I think we do have more than we need in order to get the singularity. Even if we don't, we do have the ability to make more of these fairly easily, especially now that we have a much faster smelting operation. Making the ground and then smelting it into seared brick would be very easy for us to do. And, of course, we also need to get a blaze spawner. Now, the good news is that we do have a couple of blaze spawners in the Nether, and the cardboard box here for Mechanism is pretty nifty in that it's going to allow us to move that blaze spawner from the Nether back through to the overworld without having to break it. Now, to make this, we need either 4 sawdust or we need 4 sawdust. One of these is from thermal expansion, the other is from mechanism, and it looks like we don't have the ability to make either of these. I don't think we have a pulverizer. We don't. We just have 2 multi-servo presses. And so we can either make a pulverizer or we could make a sawmill. The sawmill from mechanism, I think, is more efficient. However, it does require steel casing, which is more expensive and requires that we go through blood magic. And so instead, I think it's probably going to be more reasonable for us to just quickly make a pulverizer, which thankfully isn't too difficult for us to do here. We need 1 redstone flux coil, and then we need 2 copper gears. The copper gears, of course, we can make by just throwing our copper into the multi-servo press that has a gear working die, and as soon as we have at least 2 of those, we should then be able to throw everything together there into a pulverizer, and then from there, it's just a case of putting regular oak logs into that pulverizer to get the sawdust. So if we do this and this, we can also temporarily steal these augments and put them in over here. Not that it matters because we only need 4 and we already have way more than 4. And so now, if we again move these back over here in case we need it in the future, we can then do something like this and take the cardboard box. This is super nifty in that it allows you to move blocks without the game knowing that they've been broken. For example, over here we have these chests, and these chests are full of bees. Right now, if I break this chest, the bees are going to spew everywhere. However, if I take my cardboard box and right-click it on, I can then break the cardboard box, and now the chest is stored within that cardboard box with all of the bees inside of it. If I replace this down, let's say over here, you can then shift right-click, and now we have the exact same chest with all of the bees in the exact same place, but we managed to successfully move it much easier. And so the plan here is to kind of do the exact same thing, but with a blaze spawner. The idea being is that if we quickly head on through to the nether, which I'm going to do just as soon as we request another 4,000 netherite blocks, because we do need to get that going. Let's do 4,000. I think 4,000 is more than enough right now because we should have, over 20,000. Fantastic. But back over here, if we head on through to the nether, it should be as simple as flying over to our blaze spawner, right-clicking with the cardboard box, picking the cardboard box up, making sure the blazes don't burn the cardboard box, and then back over through the portal, we can now place this down wherever we want in the overworld and begin summoning blazes. And so real quick, what I'm going to do now, while we wait for the rest of the netherite to come in here, is I'm going to go ahead and build 2 more smelteries in the exact same way that we've done here. The only difference is that we're going to make them wider, we're going to make them deeper, and we're going to make it taller. This one right here is a 3x3 internally. I believe the biggest that you can make a Tinker Smeltery is a 7x7 internally or a 9x9 externally. I could be wrong on that. The biggest might be a 9x9 internally and an 11x11 externally. We'll do some testing to see what the biggest is, but we're going to make some very large smelteries. We're going to make them quite tall, at least the one that is going to produce the Valdanium. The one for the blazes does also need to be a little tall because we need space for those blazes to be spawned, and I'm probably going to build this platform out a little further back so we actually have room for all of those smelteries. All right, so not too long later, and we have kind of the vague outline of 2 more smelteries here. The first smeltery here is a 9x9 internally, therefore it's 11x11 externally. We've got the controller right here, and unlike this one, we've not embedded it in the floor, so the bottom here kind of is visible. And then behind it, we've got the exact same idea, but it's just a bit smaller. This is a 7x7 internally, or a 9x9 externally. We're also fully done on the netherite, so the netherite blocks over here are now being turned into singularities, and so hopefully it won't be too long before we have the 8 that we need in order to make this creative fluid tank. But back over here, we now have 2 smelteries, and what we're going to do, of course, is we're going to make these taller. So shift and scroll, by the way, to change the restrictions on the wand. We're going to build this up like this, and we're going to put our spawner in the middle. Now, the good news for us is that we have the Apotheosis mod installed, and the Apotheosis mod allows us to kind of tweak our spawner. Specifically, there are a bunch of spawner modifications that we can apply to the spawner to change the way that it behaves. For example, right here, if you add a soul lantern, then the spawner will ignore light, and so if it normally requires darkness, it will work just fine in the light. That's not really too bothersome for us. We're going to close it off anyway. But down here, we have +1 spawn count. So for every fermented spider eye that you right-click on the spawner, it will increase the amount of blazes spawned up to a certain amount. We then have max entities. By default, spawners will stop working once there is a certain number of entities around the spawner. You can increase that number to really get a large number of blazes around the spawner if you like. There's also wool, which will make it silent. Could be quite useful given how loud blazes are. You've then got sugar, which will reduce the spawn delay, which could be good for us. You've got nether stars, which ignores players, so the spawner will still work even if there are no players nearby. So long as it's chunk loaded, it will just keep going and going. Clocks change the max spawn delay. That's not to be confused with the minimum spawn delay. The minimum max is just the range of how long a spawn delay will take. Adding both clocks and sugar kind of does the same thing. It brings down the amount of time between spawns. We then have spawn range, which you can increase with a blaze rod. You have a dragon egg, which can ignore conditions. And then, crucially, one important thing here is if you have nether quartz in your offhand, you can then do all of these effects, but in reverse. Then it's particularly useful for the blaze rod here, because by default, it adds one to the spawn range, increasing the area in which the blazes can spawn. But for us, we want to very specifically only spawn blazes inside of the smeltery, and so for us, it could be quite beneficial to decrease the spawn range so that they only spawn in this area. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make this just a little bit taller, and then ideally, we're going to need some more seared brick, which is fine. I did have a drawer that was here, by the way. It wasn't connected to the system. I've since moved it over here. We do have 768,000 seared brick, which makes a lot more sense than not having any, which is what I thought was the case earlier. Either way, let's get more of these, and let's make this just a smidge taller. I think this should be fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put down a couple of seared bricks here, just to make sure the spawner goes maybe right about there, like that. We'll then get rid of these. We do still need to put down some kind of tank. I do have my Blazing Blood tank here, which I picked up from the other smeltery. We did also make 2 more smeltery controllers, by the way, in exactly the same way that we did earlier in the pack. You just put down a seared heater, which is just seared bricks, and then pour some molten copper over it. Easy enough. And of course, the idea here is that we're going to extract from a drain into the fuel tank, and then we're also going to extract from that drain into a fuel tank on this smeltery as well. And so we're going to put this near the front. The idea being now that if we start spawning blazes, we should be able to make some stuff happen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a top on this smeltery just to make sure the blazes don't escape. Not that I think they would either way, really. And then we'll also go and grab some items to modify the way this smeltery works. Specifically, I would like to get some sugar, some clocks, and some blaze rods. And again, the blaze rods I'm going to apply with quartz to reduce the range from its current setup. So let's take a few stacks of sugar. Let's also take, ideally, a few stacks of clocks, assuming we have the resources to make them, which I'm fairly certain that we do. And then we'll also grab, we don't need a full stack of blaze rods, but we'll take a full stack, and we'll also take at least 1 nether quartz. That nether quartz is going to go in our offhand here. And so ideally now, back over here, we are going to get rid of these mobs and maybe put down some torches on the top here so we don't end up with even more mobs spawning in the future. Goodbye, thank you. And so let's give this a go, shall we? In here, if we shift right click on the blaze spawner, it should start spawning mobs, ideally. And this is in the smeltery, by the way. It's there. If we go ahead and start right clicking it with sugar, you can hold control, by the way, to see the stats at the top. You'll see right now, when we apply this, the minimum spawn delay goes down. And then if we do the same with the clocks, apparently I got way too many here, but if we do the same with the clocks, the maximum spawn delay is going to go down as well. You can see that you need quite a lot of clocks to really bring that maximum spawn delay down. Thankfully, our armor is pretty good here, so we don't really have to worry too much about these blazes. We're going to bring this all the way down to 20 ticks. That's 1 second. So the minimum max spawn delay is now 1 second. If we leave here, they should begin to descend to the bottom of the smeltery, and ideally then we want them to start melting. Now, I think that if we want them to start melting, we might have to put something in here. It's also quite possible we might just need, although it sounded for a second like they did take damage there. I'm wondering if I just need a little bit more fuel in here. If I temporarily replace this with this, will that work? It does work. Okay, cool. And then we're going to take this away, and we're going to immediately replace it with this. The idea being there is that we can hopefully then get another one of these drains, and then we can pull from that drain round into the tank and kind of feed it off its own seared blood. Of course, to do that, we're going to take some fluid pipes, and the idea here is that if we place a drain down, let's say right about here, like this, we can then extract from that drain round into the tank, like this, and that's going to take that blazing blood, use it as fuel to kill more blazes. Cool. It looks like we didn't need to reduce the range. Like right now, the mobs are not spawning outside of the range of the spawner. If we wanted to, we could take the nether quartz, and down here by default, its range is set to 4. If you right click there, you'll see the range goes down to 3, but 4 was probably fine given the size of our smeltery. Either way, now, the only other thing that we could really potentially look at doing is adding maybe guest tiers to increase the number of entities that are available there. We could also do the same with the fermented spider eyes, actually. I don't think we have any fermented spider eyes, but I do believe that we should be able to make some fermented spider eyes using mushrooms, sugar, and regular spider eyes. The only things we don't have here are mushrooms, but of course we can use our poppies and or our dandelions to produce those. We don't have a lot of either poppies or dandelions, but we do thankfully have a decent amount of mana. And so let's do this and this. Actually, that's not correct. The reason that's not correct is that there is a thing under there. There's the alchemy catalyst is underneath here, which is why that has not worked as I had hoped. Thankfully, I'm pretty sure we can cycle our way through the flowers here until we get back to the poppy or dandelion, at which point we can put those back in. Fantastic. Chat is right that we could also put a nether star in there. I do think that we are close enough to where it should work, but just on the off chance it doesn't, there is no reason for us not to add one of our 1.8 million nether stars to the spawner to ensure that it does work, even if we are not close enough. And so let's do this. Let's do 1, 2, 3 of those. And then let's also go ahead and add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 gas tiers as well. And you'll see that very quickly it starts spawning a lot of blazes, and we should start getting a lot of blazing blood. And then we're going to take that blazing blood, of course, the excess blazing blood, and we're going to pump it around and over into the second, much larger smeltery. And so seared tank, let's get another one of these, thankfully very easy to make. And then back over here, let's do a quick one of these. Perfect. Now, by default, this does kind of round robin the blazing blood. I think that's probably fine. I think we should be producing enough of it to where both of these should fill up, which they have done, and we should just start to see this back up inside of here with a lot of blazing blood. The blazes will keep spawning, we'll keep getting more of it. I'm going to clear this smeltery so that the blood that we just put in there doesn't stay in. But now we can start using this smeltery to make Valdanium. And just like with the last smeltery, I'm going to go ahead and make this much, much bigger so that we can put just a staggering number of resources in here. And then we can start looking at actually putting in all of the Enderium, all of the slime steel, all of the stuff required to make all of the 232 blocks of Valdanium that we're going to need to make all of those ultimate ingots. And over here, speaking of ultimate ingots, how are we doing on this? We are actually done on the 8 netherite singularities. Those are going to go up here. Over here, we're at 47. We're not quite at 47. We're at 39 and 40 respectively, but we can take both of these out and we can put these in. I think Chorus is up here and Seared is down here. So we now need to take all of these and actually put them into our crafting table. Our ultimate crafting table, unfortunately, is kind of already in use underground here. I think it is plausible we could make another one. But real quick, let me go ahead and craft some more seared bricks. We'll make this a bit taller, and then we'll look at adding, I think, a ton of seared drains to this smeltery. This one, for example, just has the 1 seared drain, but the more seared drains we add and the more of these casting basins that we make, the more of the Valdanium we can pull out at once, and kind of the faster we can start making it and pulling it into the system, which I think is going to be ideal. All right, so not too long later, we've now got 9 of these seared drains and 9 casting basins on the left-hand side of our smeltery. And so the idea here is that if we look at the recipe for the Valdanium, we need slime steel, hepatizen, netherite, signalum, enderium, and that's it. So if we go ahead and grab a stack of enderium blocks, a stack of signalum blocks, a stack of netherite blocks is of course going to be the problem that we run into. Okay, this is all coming back to me now. In that case, let's take a quick detour away from this, back to getting ourselves another crafting table. Specifically, of course, another one of these ultimate crafting tables so that we can look at setting up the automation for the unlimited netherite, because we are going to need way more netherite to actually make this happen. And so we do need to make the ultimate crafting table again, which shouldn't be difficult for us to do. It's just a lot of crafting of all of these different components. All right, so I've made another ultimate crafting table. However, the Twitch chat has pointed out, quite rightly, that we can't divert away to getting the creative fluid tank because the creative fluid tank requires ultimate components, which require the ultimate ingots, which requires some of the Valdanium. And so I've gone ahead and requested yet more blocks of Netherite be made. Thankfully, they do come in very quickly here. And again, as we were looking at earlier, we only really want to get a stack for now to get us started. So let's take some Enderium, let's take the Signalum, let's take the Hepatizen, and let's take the Slime Steel. If we put a block of each of these in, or a stack of blocks of each of these in, like this, and this, thankfully our smeltery is very large, big enough to hold even more than what we've just put in there, they should all melt down somewhat slowly, and once they've all melted down, it should combine into, hopefully, a fair amount of this Valdanium. It does take a block of each to make an ingot of Valdanium, so we're going to make about 64 ingots of Valdanium here in total, which is 7 blocks of Valdanium. Those 7 blocks of Valdanium will get us 7 ultimate ingots. If we want to make the creative fluid tank, we need 16 of these ultimate components plus an ultimate catalyst, which is 4 more. So we need 20 ultimate components, which means we need 40 ultimate ingots. And so we are going to have to do this like 6 times, which I think should be fine. It means we need 6 stacks of Netherite blocks, which we definitely got, as well as 6 stacks of Enderium blocks, 6 stacks of Signalum and Hepatizen and Slime Steel. And so, real quick, let's not be dropping those on the floor. I do need them. Let's check in over here. How is this doing? It is done. We've got the 7 blocks of Valdanium, and so we just need to then pull them out over here. The fastest way, I think, for us to pull those out is going to be with the fluid pipe here. Now, we should probably look at getting... There is a little bit of blood in here, which is going to cause our system to not work correctly if we leave that in there. Do we have any pipe upgrades left over? We've got like 6 pipe upgrades here. We could always potentially make a few more, although we could also start to look at stealing some from other parts of our base at this point because we don't really need our centrifuges over there working currently. And so we should, hopefully, just be able to set these to extract. Right now, it's going to go ahead and pull the Valdanium out of all of those, and that's going to start clearing those into Valdanium blocks, which is perfect. And so I guess, real quick, once we have the creative tank, we could potentially look at automating this a bit more, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and keep throwing in the blocks that we need here until we have enough Valdanium ingots to make this creative fluid tank. All right, so not too long later, I've made the smeltery much, much bigger so that we can put a lot more resources in. I've also cleared my inventory out. You can see here it's actually taking a little bit of time just to melt everything down. The idea now, though, that we've made it so tall, and you can make it as tall as you like up to the world build height, so we could go even taller. But right now, we can take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks of each and every resource here and just drop all of them in at the same time. So no longer is it just a case of doing 1 block of each at a time. We can now drop in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks of Hepatizen, and of course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks of Slime Steel. We can in fact even do more than this. I'm pretty sure if I drop all of these into the smeltery, there is still space down at the bottom. You can see that we get about here before we fill it up, but then down here there's still more space. We could probably do maybe 1 more stack of each, potentially, and it still wouldn't fill up, which is good. And you can see that we're backing up on blocks of Valdanium down here, so we can kind of keep pulling these out. But we do now have the 40 blocks of Valdanium needed to make the ultimate ingots. So down here, I'm fairly certain that the whole point of putting the ultimate crafting table down here was that it should be able to pull from the draw controller. So if I put this in here, and then we click here, shift left click to save that recipe, does that work? Click, and then shift left click, I think. That does work. Okay, cool. This looks like it might need power in order to do the craft automatically. That is completely fine. We should have access to at least 1 flux point. Never mind, we do not. That's fine. We can go ahead and make at least 1 flux point and drop that down onto our ultimate auto crafting table. Let's say right about here, like this, and make sure we select our network, and hopefully we'll see that start producing ultimate ingots. You can take these manually, but what I want to see is this right here. You'll see that they all immediately refill back up as soon as an ingot is made, which is exactly what we want. I think I can do this and just take all of them right away here, and it's going to go ahead and refill whatever missing ingredients need to be refilled, which is so much easier than us having to do it manually. It does take a little bit of time, especially when you do what I just did there and try and take everything out all at once, but it is going to go ahead and refill all of these slots so that we don't have to go through and check all the resources in manually, which is good. And so we're just 2 ultimate ingots away, and once we have those, we should finally be able to make our first creative item. So over here, we've got our ultimate crafting table. Perfect. Over here, we have all of the singularities for the ultimate singularity. And so I guess what we can do, I might end up making another one of these ultimate crafting tables, because I think what we'll do is we'll take this one, we'll bring that over here, and we'll just move all of these over into here. I think if I put them in like this, they should go in the correct order, so we can take them out and then put them in backwards like that. And if I have done this correctly, hopefully once all of these are in, that should allow us to start crafting all of the ultimate singularities. And boom, there we go. I did all that, and then chat told me it was a shapeless recipe, so you can actually put these in wherever you like. It doesn't matter at all if you put them in the right order, but that is 8 ultimate singularities. Perfect. And the rest are, of course, going to be ready to go as soon as we get all of the Netherite. Over here, Chorus and Seared are still on their way. I think that's more than enough Chorus. It definitely is. And I also think that's more than enough Seared. It also is. That is completely fine. I don't really think we're going to need this pop chorus for anything else, but just on the off chance that we do, I will make sure that we don't turn it all into singularities. We'll bring this back over here. And now let me quickly whip up one more of those ultimate crafting tables so that we can do the craft for the creative fluid tank. And yet again, one more ultimate crafting table later, we should now be able to make this creative tank. So down here, we should have 27 more of these ultimate ingots. Fantastic. 2 was all that we needed, because now we should have everything to start making these ultimate components. So as I said a second ago, we need 20 of these. So let's start with that. I'm going to be very careful not to make too many of these, because I want to make sure that we use these as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to make 20 of those. We're then going to make just the 1 of these for now. And then, of course, those ultimate singularities that we just put away are also needed. And, of course, we need all 28 of the ultimate tanks. We need all 8 of the advanced tanks, all 12 of the basic tanks, and all 16 of the elite tanks. And, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to hold all of those in my inventory at the same time. So we are going to have to kind of put these in manually. But that shouldn't be too big of an issue. These go here. These go kind of diagonally in to the corners like this, and then I believe there's kind of concentric rings after that. So the ultimate tanks go around the outside like this, and then we have the elite tanks after that, and then we have the advanced tanks that go kind of in the middle like this, and I think it's just a couple of basic tanks in the center. And if we can get everything into our inventory, we should be able to just shift click it in. But again, I don't think we're going to quite have enough space. Once you get to this point here where you have enough stuff in the crafting grid and the rest of the items in your inventory, you can then go ahead and click the Move Items button, and it puts everything in. And with that, we do have our first creative item, the creative fluid tank. And so, as we mentioned before, our plan here is going to be to get some molten netherite and put that molten netherite into the tank to allow us to get unlimited molten netherite. Now, I am going to do that, I think, in one of our smelteries here. This smeltery, unfortunately, doesn't have any blazing blood in it. However, we can go ahead and make yet another seared tank. And of course, that's not the right one. I want this one here. And of course, we can steal some of the hundreds of buckets of blazing blood that we have in our other smeltery. So if I do something like this, and I do, something, and I do something like this, we can then go and take some of the blazing blood out from over here, like so. Again, over in here, we're backed up on 169 buckets of blazing blood, and so now we can do one of these, not one of those. We can do, ideally one of these. That's going to melt down this netherite. We can then pull that out with a bucket, and we can place it into our creative fluid tank. The plan from there is to kind of do this, but with the tank. We're going to pull from the tank into a ton of these seared casting basins so that we can start producing netherite blocks, and then we're going to pump all of those netherite blocks, I guess ideally, directly into this drawer here so it can be used to make the netherite singularities. So any second now, this should be done. I believe we might be able to do this to pull it out. We totally can. If I do this and this, we now have infinite molten netherite. The plan here is that we can now take a bunch of these casting basins. Again, we can make maybe a stack of them at least. And then we can take a ton of fluid pipes. The choice of which fluid pipe to use, there are a lot of different fluid pipes that we can use. We'll start with these ones, and we'll maybe look at different ones if this doesn't prove to be too useful. But ideally, we're also going to need some item pipes as well. Item pipe wise, do we have any lying around in here? We do indeed. Fantastic. And so what we're going to do, we're going to have a pipe that goes into here, and then we're going to kind of run this off out in this direction. The idea being that if we go ahead and place the basins on top like this, we can then have fluid pipes on top of that. You gotta be careful with these, like this, so they don't go on the side, despite the fact that it looks like you're placing them on top. And then we're gonna extract, of course, from this tank. So if we set this to extract, it's gonna fill all these up with netherite. This is where we really do need to get a high tier pipe upgrade to pull out of here very, very fast. And then ideally, once those have all cooled into blocks of netherite, we're then gonna extract those blocks of netherite down into this drawer, and that will make the netherite singularities. That's the idea. We're going to do this on a much, much, much larger scale, of course. And I think it's probably going to be in our best interest to look at getting ourselves our first netherite pipe upgrade, our first ultimate pipe upgrade. To do that, we need, I think, 5 diamonds in order to go from a gold to a diamond tier. And then we need 5 netherite as well. Thankfully, the netherite is already in here. So if we melt those down, we should be able to pull the diamonds out of here, down onto here. And as soon as that transforms, we can then pull down this as well. And that's going to get us our first ultimate pipe upgrade, which is going to be as fast as we can get with these pipe upgrades. So we'll take this. Unfortunately, you can't make the creative pipe upgrade in this pack. But now over here, if we put that in like this, these are going to fill up basically instantaneously. If I do this and I do this, you'll see that that filled up right away, as fast as it could. And then we probably are not going to bother making 64 of those for extracting, but it's probably going to be worth putting in some kind of pipe upgrade into the extraction just to make it somewhat faster. We'll start out with no pipe upgrades because it looks like they do go out pretty quickly. But again, if it looks like we do need to make things faster, we could then look at pipe upgrades. For now, though, let's go ahead and grab our builder's wand and let's get all 64 of these down. Okay, so I've got all 64 of these casting basins down. We've got all the fluid pipes down. All the item pipes are set to extract. All of these do fill back up basically instantaneously here, which is fantastic. However, down here, it's not really fast enough. You'll see that they're coming in, but pretty slowly. Like, it's going to take a little while, even with all 64 here, for this to work. And so I think, really, we just need to do this, but more. We've got 1 stack down now. I think we need to do multiple stacks of seared basins and then kind of just leave it to do its thing passively in the background so that we can get the remaining 39 singularities that we need, hopefully in a somewhat reasonable period of time. All right, so we've quadrupled up the number of basins here to the point where the frame rate's a little jittery here, but we now have 256 casting basins all being filled up, all being extracted, and all being sent around. And if my calculations are correct, it's going to take us just over an hour to get 39 singularities using this setup. We already have 3, so we're already on our way there, but we're just going to leave this now, doing its thing. And initially, I'm going to quickly go ahead and get the remaining Valdanium blocks that we need so that we can get all of the remaining ultimate ingots. Over here, we are on our way to getting more ultimate ingots. We can put that in. And of course, over in here, we currently have 127 blocks of Valdanium. I was contemplating doing some automation here, but we only need 232 blocks in total. And so I think we're already more than halfway through the amount of Valdanium we need. So I'm just going to do a few more dumps of all of the blocks of Enderium, Signalum, Netherite, Hepatizin, and Slimesteel. And once we have all of those ultimate ingots, then we can start looking at some of the other crafts here, because there is still more stuff to do while we wait for all of that Netherite to come in. All right, so we are still getting there. I'm still pulling out the Valdanium here. We do have enough inside of our smeltery, combined with what we've already got making ultimate ingots down in here. These are still on their way. We've got a stack there. I can take those out. More we're going to get made. But whilst we wait for that, and whilst we wait, of course, for the netherite, there are a few other things that are going to take a little bit of time that we should get set up so that we're not sat waiting around kind of towards the end of the pack. Specifically, right now, I'm thinking about the creative energy cube here. We have to make 49, I believe, energy cubes in total. Some are basic, some are advanced, some are elite, but most are ultimate. And the trouble, the bit that's going to make this take a long time, is that every single one of these has to be full of energy. And so each one of these ultimate energy cubes holds 102 million redstone flux. We need 21 of those in total, which means just to fill up the ultimate energy cubes is going to take 2.14 billion redstone flux, which sounds like a lot, but I think we can do it in under half an hour using the 85,000 RF per tick that we generate when our reactor is working at full tilt. And so what I've gone ahead and done is I've gone ahead and again made more of the atomic reinforced and infused alloys using the infusing factory that we have around the corner. And I've also gone ahead and requested 49 steel casings. So previously we had requested a stack of machine frames. Those are all ready to go. Right now, our system is working on crafting 44 steel casing, which of course is done over here with the infrastructure that we set up to use our blood magic altar. Those are coming in slowly but surely. They are going to take a little bit of time to come in, but whilst we wait for those to come in, I think we can get started on some of those high tier energy cubes. Again, specifically, we need 27 of the highest tier cubes. It's kind of the same as the creative tank here. We need the same number of ultimate energy cubes as we did ultimate fluid tanks, and then the same number of elites and advanced and basics. But I feel like whilst we wait for the steel casing to come in, we can start making some of these cubes and we can start charging them up using our flux points so that they're ready to go. And then once we have them all, we can have them all down, we can have them all filling up with energy, and then we can continue to work on getting the ultimate components and, again, some of the other stuff required here whilst they slowly fill up on energy. And so the craft here is fairly straightforward. We need a ton of these energy tablets because every tier of every cube requires 2 energy tablets. And so let's go ahead and make those, I guess. These don't stack, which is horrendous, to the point where I might actually go ahead and just teach our system how to make these then, because I think that's going to be just better than trying to do it manually. So let's put those in over here. I'm fairly certain we're not going to need the apiary storage anymore, so I'll put those in up there. Again, if we need 49 cubes, it's kind of hard to figure out how many we're going to need in total. I mean, we could just teach it. We could just teach it all the recipes, actually. That might not be the worst idea if we just do this, and this, and this, and of course, this. We should be able to put all of those in, assuming that encodes, which it did. And then if we put all those in here, we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and replace the hives. Again, I don't foresee us needing any more hives going forward here. So we'll swap all of those out. And for now, we'll just put all of those back into the system. And then let's see, right now we have got 7 steel casing. And so in theory, I think we should be able to request 7 of these ultimate energy cubes. We can. And I also don't think it's going to take very long at all for those to come in, because I don't think any of the crafts that we've requested should be particularly difficult. They weren't. Nice. And so we can take these out. We do actually charge them wirelessly if we just hold them in our inventory, which is interesting. I wonder if that like fully tanks the system. It's taking the power out. It's not taking it out like at the maximum possible speed. And so I do think we could maybe, but then again, I guess we are limited to 800,000 RF per tick is like how much we can pull out, but I don't think we're using that currently. I do think it's going to be faster and easier if we just get some more flux points and just use those on each and every one of the cubes to fill them up very quickly. Ideally, we'd get at least 7 here. Let me try and get one more. The server is getting a little bit laggy, but that's to be expected. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and let's just make sure all of these are getting power from the Flux networks. And of course, we can use our Flux configurator to ideally make this just a little bit faster. Cool. And so those are going to start to fill up. This first one's actually almost done, and then they're probably going to go in order here. They're probably all going to fill up simultaneously. But this one's almost done. Once it's done, we'll take it out, and we'll probably just put it straight into the ultimate crafting table, because I think that's probably the next thing that we'll make here is this creative energy cube. And so, yeah, we just need to keep an eye out on our steel casing. As more steel casing comes in, we can request more energy cubes. We're going to put those down and then put them into the crafting table. And we just got to do that for all of these cubes. And again, whilst I wait for these cubes, I'm going to continue to pull more of the Valdanium out over here and use it to make more ultimate ingots. Over here, we are still getting there slowly but surely on the Netherite singularity front. We're at 12 out of the 39 that we need. And so, yeah, I'm confident those are going to come in due time. All right, so not too long later, we have almost all of the ultimate energy cubes. They're in here, and they are fully charged. The last one is down right here, and it is actually fully charged. Right now, all of these elite energy cubes are, I would say, currently charging, but it looks like they are also pretty much done. I think every single one of these is good to go, so we can go ahead and break all of those. We can get them, of course, over into here. These charge much faster, 4 times faster, to be precise, than the ultimate energy cubes, which is fantastic. This is done as well. And we did just request the 8 advanced energy cubes, so those are also good to go. And I'm assuming that we now have the 4 steel casing. We don't. We're at 2 steel casing, although the last 2 are on their way. We need 4 basic energy cubes once all of this is done as well. You'll see these are charging in my inventory, but we'll go ahead and throw them down just to charge them up a little bit faster. There we go. That's not going to take long at all because these do not hold anywhere near as much as the other ones. Again, a quarter of the time that it takes the elite one to fill up, and so those are also done. And I assume in here we're at 3 out of 4 steel casing. We are indeed, and so once that's done, we'll get our 4 basic energy cubes. These ones here, we'll put those down. Those are going to fill up almost instantaneously. And then at that point, again, we're basically good to go. In the time that it took all those to fill up, we did manage to get more than enough ultimate ingots. We got 254 in the system now. We only needed 232 in total, and that's including for making the creative tank, which is done. We've also got a few more Valdanium blocks here if we actually wanted them, but again, shouldn't need them. Over here, things are chugging away. We're at 27 out of 39 on the ultimate singularity, so we can go ahead and do something like this. That's going to get us a good number of them here. I think that might be... Oh, no, they stack at 16. That's why they don't stack there. So we've got 27 more ultimate singularities. Again, we're just waiting for the last netherite blocks here. It looks like they are actually now coming in faster than the quantum compressor can process them, which is good. Actually, I say that. That's not true because they're all gone. There we go. And it's not got quite enough to start the next craft there, but it's very close. It's very almost at the point where there's no downtime, which is perfect. So back over here, we should now have that steel casing. We do. So let me quickly request the 4 basic energy cubes and start. As soon as those are done, they might just charge up in our inventories. But again, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like that, those are all full and good to go. Perfect. Back over here, we can do this. And now to finish it off, if we want to make the creative energy cube, we once again need 16 more ultimate components, 1 more ultimate catalyst, and 8 more ultimate singularities. That's kind of the same for basically everything that we have left to go. In fact, I'm fairly certain we can just craft these down because I don't think we need the ultimate ingots really for anything else other than the components. I think that's basically all we use these for. Let me make 1 of these, and then over here, do we have everything that we need? We do not. It says we're missing ultimate cubes. It looks like I'm missing quite a few of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7, 14, 21. We need 28. I just miscalculated. That's my bad. We need 7 more. Energy cube. I thought we needed 21. We don't. We need 28, which means I need 7 more of these, which means I need to get 7 more steel casing. That shouldn't be a problem. Let's go ahead and request those next and start. And hopefully, once those steel casings come in, we can request those. We can put them down. They'll fill up a little slower, but they should get there fairly quickly. While we wait for that, there are other things we can do. The creative chemical tank, I think, is going to be very straightforward. This is the same recipe with the ultimate singularities and the ultimate components. We just need ultimate chemical tanks, ultimate elite chemical tanks, advanced chemical tanks, and basic chemical tanks. These are just a case of getting more of all of the different tiers of alloys. Thankfully, these don't have to be filled. They're all empty, and so this is going to be super easy for us to do. We then have the everlasting guilty pool. Again, I think on that front, we should be pretty much good to go. We've got 8 mana tablets here. We need to make 4 more mana tablets to make that work. Let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And back over here, I'm hopeful that in the time it's taken us to do all this, these should be full again. They are indeed. So let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fantastic. Those are going to fill up nice and quickly with mana. Again, we've got 8 tablets worth here, so we should be good on that front. And then everything else here is not too bad. We've got a bunch of mana pools, which means we are going to have to get more living rock. That's fine. And then we need a bunch of these fabulous mana pools. These are made with either shimmer rock or bifrost block. The shimmer rock here is made with living rock and bifrost block, so it's kind of the same either way. The bifrost block is elf glass and a rod of the bifrost. Elf glass is just mana glass through the Elven portal, and mana glass is just glass that we infuse with mana. So if we take, for example, a stack of glass here, and we go and drop that into one of our mana pools, these should be done, by the way, so we'll pick all of those up. Fantastic, that's all 12 of them taken care of. If we do something like this, that's going to get us a stack of mana glass, and then if we take that stack of mana glass and just throw it through the elf portal, like so, that should get us, I think, 64 elf glass. From there, we then need to craft it with that Rod of the Bifrost. This is made with 1 Dragonstone, 2 Pixie Dust, and 2 Elementium. As we saw earlier in the pack, these are all made by throwing different resources through the portal. The Dragonstone is just a Mana Diamond, the Pixie Dust is a Mana Pearl, and the Elementium is just Mana Steel. Although, we should have the Elementium because, also, we might be out of mana here. I noticed we only got 60 out of the 64 that we threw in, but over here, we should have Elementium already because we have a B for it. Take 2 of those. We then need 1 diamond and 2 ender pearls. Perfect. We need to craft all of those into their mana variant. Over here, we do still have a little bit of mana, but I guess that's not enough. That's fine. Back over here, let's do this, this, and whoops, and this. I need 1 more ender pearl. We've still got that alchemy catalyst underneath that mana pool there, which is still throwing me off every single time. Let's try that one more time here with just a regular ender pearl. Like so. Chat is right, the alpha class could be kind of back here. It is indeed. And now that should be everything that we need in order to make the Bifrost Rod, which is this guy right here. Oh, of course we don't. Isaac, you fool. We have to throw these through the portal first. Let's do that. Over here, we're going to throw in 1 mana diamond. That gets us the Dragonstone and 2 mana pearls. That is going to get us 2 pixie dust. That is now everything that we need in order to make the Rod of the Bifrost. And then if we do this and this, we can craft up the Bifrost block. And of course, we can now craft that Bifrost block with Living Rock to get Shimmer Rock. And then we can craft that to make the fabulous mana pools. Right now, we got 34 Living Rock, so not a ton of Living Rock. We're definitely going to need more, but this shouldn't be too difficult, right? We can do something like this. That gets us 6 of them. We need to get however many we need here to fill this in, but none of that should be too difficult. It's just going to be a case of using these pure daisies over and over and over again until we have enough Living Rock. And if needs be, we can always make more of these pure daisies. It's just 4 white petals in the Petal Apothecary. That is not going to be difficult for us at all. Do I have a sword in here? I do indeed. Let's quickly dispense with this individual, and then let's quickly see how we're doing on steel casing again. We're at 4 out of the extra 7 that we need, so we'll hold off on that for a second. Then we have the creative storage upgrade. This one, completely fine. I think our system already knows how to make the tier 5 storage upgrades. Making the tier 4, the tier 3, the tier 2, and the base template here should be very easy. This is not going to be a difficult craft for us at all. The creative energy cell here, also not going to be too bad. We need, you guessed it, more ultimate components, more ultimate singularities, and we need a bunch of these dense energy cells with some regular energy cells. So over here, do we have any patterns spare? We do not, however, I think we can probably clear these because I don't think we're going to be using them again, and we can put them back in. And then if we go energy and we teach our system how to make the energy cell and how to make the dense energy cell, which is just 8 energy cells around a calculation processor, that's basically everything good to go there. Let's take out the honey glass and the honey glass, and we'll replace both of those crafts like so. So looking at this, we need 28 plus 16. We need 44 of these dense energy cells. Dense energy cells. If I wanted 44 of these, we are just missing 28 calculation processors, some glass, and then some Flux dust. The Flux dust should be doable. We can just crush some Flux, and we've got a ton of Flux, 2.1 million. That's fine. And then on top of that, we just need 12 regular energy cubes, which again should be completely fine here. If we can make all the other ones required, I can request those straight away, actually. And so again, this kind of seems fine. Over here, we do have the calculation processes ready to go, so I'll take those and drop them in the system. Sand-wise, we've got 1.8 million sand, and so getting enough glass is not going to be a problem. Let me just go and throw that into one of our 2 smelting factories over here. Let's do this, and let's do this. That's going to get us a ton of sand. And then, of course, that Flux that we saw, we can just take our Flux crystals and we can run those through the crusher, and that's going to get us all of the Flux dust that we need. Boom, and boom. Perfect. And so that is also going to be fine, which leaves us with just one recipe that's going to be the worst of all of them. Real quick, before we look at that, steel casing. We are at the 7 steel casing, and so I do believe I can request the 7 ultimate energy cubes here. We are missing 69 infused alloy and 24 reinforced alloy. That is completely fine. We just need some iron, some redstone, and some diamond, preferably the enriched kind. Back over here, we actually do have some infused alloy, and we can do a quick one of these and kind of just put these back in to start getting more of the reinforced alloy, and hopefully that's enough. Again, we are going to have to make even more of those for the chemical tanks, but that's fine. Let's do ultimate energy cube. Can I get 7 of those? I can. Cool. And so those shouldn't take too long to be crafted. As we saw earlier, they are nice and fast. Fantastic. And then let's go and put those down. Those are going to start to charge up whilst we work on the pneumatic craft stuff. So this recipe here is going to be a bit of a pain. So to do this, we need 4 air compressors. Let me unbookmark these, by the way. These are all basically done. 4 air compressors. We need 8 liquid compressors. We then need 8 advanced liquid compressors. We then need 8 advanced air compressors. We then need 12 flux compressors. And we need 16 thermal compressors. Once we have all of those, we are going to be good to go to make this. Now, the only trouble with this is that some of these are all expensive. initially here, the air compressor should be pretty straightforward. We need some reinforced bricks. That's fine. That's just reinforced stone, which is just stone and compressed iron. We can make a ton of this. We are light on stone, but I do believe we have more compressed stone that we can decompress if we wanted to make even more of these, which we can do. Perfect. And then we can go ahead and just craft those down into their brick form. Fantastic. And that's going to be everything to make the compressors. We might need some more tubes. We might need some more furnaces. The furnaces, again, not a problem whatsoever. We can do this and this. We do still have cobblestone coming in from our old cobblestone setup that we set up in maybe episode 2 of the series. And I think I said we needed 4 of these. Let me check the recipe on that, though. Yeah, 4 of those is correct. So that is good to go. Let me get a little chest here. Let's whack that down. And that's going to be that taken off the list. Next up is the liquid compressor. The liquid compressor, we needed 8 of these, I believe. This requires an air compressor initially, so we do need 8 more of these air compressors to start with here. That is fine. Boom. And boom, there's 10 air compressors. And then to make them into liquid compressors, we need more pressure tubing. Again, not a problem, just glass and compressed iron, which we have got in abundance, along with leather and a small fluid tank. Let me get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of those. And boom, there is 2 liquid compressors. We need more leather. Of all things, thankfully, we can turn rotten flesh into leather using the alchemy catalyst. It's not been too useful for us today so far, but this is where it comes in handy. It allows us to make leather incredibly easily, and that is more than we need in order to do this and this. Perfect. So there's our 8 compressors. That, so far, not a problem. Next up, we need the advanced liquid compressor. So we need to make more of these. Again, I think it was 8 that we needed of the advanced liquid compressors. It was. So we're doing to get another 8 of those. We had 10 of those. We've got 2 left. I need 6 more of these. Perfect. That should be everything to make more of these. As soon as I get 1, 2, 3, whoops. As soon as we do this and this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. And again, once we have 8 more of those, now is where it gets a little tricky because we now need to get these advanced pressure tubes. These do have to be made using the assembly controller. So we need to get 1 assembly laser, we need 1 assembly importer, we need 1 assembly exporter, and we need 1 assembly platform. We also need the assembly program laser. That's going to allow us to turn 20 pressure chamber valves into 8 advanced pressure tubes. We need 2 tubes per liquid compressor, and we need 8 of those in total. We then have the advanced air compressor. Same idea. We need more tubes. Those tubes require the setup. Then we have these flux compressors. These take things one step further. Redstone, easy enough. Compressed iron gears, super easy. Turbine rotors, also super easy. These are pretty straightforward. There is some work we have to do in the pressure chamber, but golden redstone we have. Blast furnace, also very easy. More advanced tubing, which we're going to have to do with the lasers, but it requires 2 printed circuit boards. The 2 printed circuit boards here are also required in the making of all of these different components that we need in order to make the advanced tubing. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4 circuit boards, I believe, to get this set up. Then over here, if we want to make these, we need 2 of these per flux compressor. And again, checking the recipe here, we needed 12 flux compressors. So that's 24 PCBs plus the 4 here takes us to 28. Then we've got the thermal compressor. This thankfully doesn't require any of those PCBs. In fact, this is makeable right now. And we needed 16 of those, I believe. So let me get like a ton of furnaces and a ton of air compressors because they seem to be used in everything. So let's do 1 of these and 1 of these. That might not be enough, to be honest. Then let's do this and this. We need yet more of the reinforced brick. Thankfully, we did kind of prepare for that. Then let's do that. There's 25 of those. We then need a bunch of plates. Perfect. And we need, ideally, 16 of these. I'm not going to shift click it because I know we're going to make too many. 16. Perfect. Let's check that off the list. So now we need to get 28 of these printed circuit boards, and then we need to set up this system to allow us to make the advanced pressure tubing. The printed circuit boards here are made in a craft using 2 transistors and 2 capacitors. So again, we needed 28 of these. That means that we need 56 transistors and 56 capacitors. Those I don't think are going to be too difficult. They are made in the pressure chamber with gold nuggets, redstone, and plastic, along with gold nuggets, slime balls, and plastic. The only thing we don't have there on both of those recipes is plastic, so we'll come back to that in a second. Then we also need to get an unassembled PCB. This can be made using this setup once we have it good to go, and we should do that. Initially, though, to get the initial 4 PCBs, we're going to have to use an etching tank. Let me bookmark that. And we're going to have to get some etching acid. Let me bookmark that. Then we take an empty PCB, with hopefully a fairly high etch success chance, and we can use that to get an unassembled PCB. The higher the chance, the more likely you are to get an actual PCB and not a failed PCB, because there is a chance inside the etching tank that you don't get a PCB. The way that you determine that chance is using the UV light box. This guy right here, will bookmark that. The UV light box takes an empty PCB, which we can make. The empty PCB is made in a pressure chamber with plastic, gold nuggets, and redstone torches. Then you can place this in the UV light box, and essentially the longer that you leave it inside of the UV light box, the higher the etch success chance. So it starts at 0%, and it'll slowly climb up 1%, 2%, 3%, all the way until it gets to 100. Once it gets to 100, you can then put it in the etching tank. You can put it in at any point, by the way. You could put it in with a 1% chance. There's just, at that point, obviously a 99% chance that it's going to fail. If it fails, you can smelt it, but then you have to do the whole thing again, and the etch success chance goes back down to 0. So that was a lot of information to dump all at once. Essentially, though, this is done. So we can take these, and let's get this first crafting recipe out of the way, and then let's go and get this pneumatic craft stuff taken care of. So here, creative, energy, cube. Can we make this? We cannot. We're missing the ultimate components. That's fine. Boom. And boom. So we now have unlimited power, which is perfect. We can put this down over here next to our Flux plug, and that's going to provide unlimited power to everything in our base, which is perfect. We can also go ahead and get rid of this. Fantastic. And hopefully, yes, that has ticked off that quest. Good stuff. So the big question, I guess, around all of this was plastic. Everything else we had, the only thing we didn't have for all of this is plastic. Plastic sheets can be made by putting molten plastic, just a bucket of molten plastic, down in the world. There are other ways you can do it, but this is probably the easiest. Molten plastic we get by putting either biodiesel or LPG into a thermopneumatic processing plant. The thermopneumatic processing plant is fairly straightforward. In fact, I'm fairly certain we can make a thermopneumatic processing plant right now. We need a bit more of the stone here. We need to craft that stone into slabs, and then we need to craft those slabs with more of these small fluid tanks and yet another pressure tube. Easy enough. I think the LPG is going to be easier for us to get than the biodiesel. The LPG is made by putting crude oil into a refinery. So the refinery controller and the refinery outputs are going to be required here. We are looking for specifically LPG, I guess, but we also could do with maybe gasoline. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make one refinery controller. This requires, you guessed it, yet another small fluid tank, but other than that is easy enough. And then I'm going to craft 4 of these refinery outputs. For that, we just need yet more of these slabs. That's fine. They're easy enough to make. And let's take 2, 3, 4 of those. Perfect. And so the idea here is that we place down the refinery controller, and then you can put oil into this. The outputs you get are going to depend on the number of refinery outputs that you have. We're going to go full hog and put all 4 of these down. You don't have to put all 4 down. Again, if we look at the recipe here on crude oil, if you put just 2 down, you'll get diesel and LPG. If you put 3 down, you'll get diesel, kerosene, and LPG. If you put all 4 down, you'll get diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. The reason I've put all 4 down, there is a chance that we could use the gasoline in the thermopneumatic processing plant to get LPG, to get even more LPG, which again lets us make even more plastic with that thermopneumatic processing plant. Speaking of which, let's get this guy down as well, for now right about here. And now we need to get oil into this refinery. Now, the good news is that we can use bitumen and sand to get oil. The bad news is that initially we used all of our bitumen and sand and we deleted all of the oil that was made using this fluid trash can. The good news is that at the end of the last episode, the Twitch chat pointed out that I needed more bitumen and sand, and so we did get the bituminous B back up and running between streams. He's right there doing his job, and so thankfully we do have a bunch of bitumen and sand available in our system here. And so really all we should have to do is get another jumbo tank, which is 4 of these singularity tanks, boom and boom. And then if we put this bitumen and sand over into our pre-existing setup, that being this one over here, but we replace this fluid tank with the jumbo tank, we should hopefully be able to start storing all of the bitumen and sand. Now, actually, I think it's probably going to make a lot of sense, much like we did last time, for us to just grab the bitumen and sand drawer, that being this one right here, and moving it over. It's probably also going to be easier if I land, break this, pick it up, and then we fly over. So let's put this down right about here. Once again, we'll set this to extract, and if we go and grab one of our pipe upgrades, we should be able to get that moving just a little bit faster. So now this is going to start producing the crude oil, which is perfect. It's going to store it up here. Fantastic. What we can do is we can take that crude oil and we can go and place it into our refinery. And the idea with the refinery is that you do need some kind of heat source beneath it. Initially, I think lava here is going to be our best option for that heat source. That's quite a wild looking bucket of oil, but essentially over here, we'll put in the crude oil like so. And in here, you'll see that it says current temperature requirement is 100 degrees Celsius. And right now it is just 26 degrees Celsius. So not hot enough. However, if we were to go ahead and maybe do something like this, we can then get rid of that piece of cobblestone there. We can put lava down here, and that lava should, in theory, heat this up to the required temperature, and it's going to start producing diesel, kerosene, gasoline, LPG. Perfect. And all of those are available in their respective tanks in that order. So it's diesel, kerosene, gasoline, LPG. Now we kind of just need to make that faster. The bad news as well here, by the way, is that the lava will solidify into obsidian. So we could do with maybe some kind of block breaker or something down to break that obsidian when it happens. The Pneumatic processing plant also requires the same temperature limit, and we need to get some of the LPG out of the refinery and into the TPP. That's going to allow us to start making the molten plastic. Thankfully, it only takes 100 millibuckets of LPG to make 1,000 millibuckets of molten plastic. It also requires a little bit of coal as well. So let's take some coal, and thankfully, the pneumatic craft tanks can be used as buckets. So if we take another one of these small fluid tanks, what we should be able to do, and you'll see that the obsidian has solidified, but what we should be able to do is right-click on this guy. That's going to then take the LPG out, all 200 millibuckets. If we place it in here, like so, that's going to turn that into plastic. We can then take that plastic, and let's get another little hole in the ground going here, and let's do something like this, and like this. The idea being now, we can take this, we can put it down, and that's going to make plastic. Cool. So that's the general premise of what we do here. Now, you'll notice it's not very fast, and you'll notice that this broke very quickly. So real quick, let me check here. Do we have any kind of block breaker? We do. In fact, we have the breaker module for modular routers, and we might be able to set this up and configure it in such a way that we can make that work. So if I grab some obsidian from here, and in here, we whitelist obsidian, and we set it to the front. Actually, let's set it to the right-hand side. It's just going to be easier to place it down. And then over here, let's do this, this, and this. Okay, so it turns out that when you make the module, you have to put the pickaxe tier that you want into the module itself. So I have to make a diamond pickaxe, then do this and make a module that has the diamond pickaxe kind of in it to begin with. This one here says that it is a stone pickaxe. So if we swap this out for this and then configure it to the right-hand side, there we go. Now it's going to break the obsidian, and that's perfect. I'm not really too bothered about losing the obsidian. That's fine. We just need to make sure that this gets more lava. There are more efficient ways to do this, but essentially now we need to take our fluid tank. We can fill this up with fluid, 32 buckets, perfect. And then over here, we can go ahead and we can dump that into here. That's going to fill it up with oil, and it's going to start processing stuff. There are speed upgrades that we can make, and I think we can put those speed upgrades... Actually, I don't know if we can put those speed upgrades into the refinery here. I think the refinery just works faster if it's hotter, which I think you can do by covering the blocks here. Over here, you'll see this one does have an upgrade slot, so we can put these speed upgrades here into machines like the Pneumatic processing plant to make it work faster. For that, we need lapis, sugar, and lubricant. Lubricant is made, I believe, using gasoline in the Pneumatic processing plant. Diesel in the Pneumatic processing plant with redstone makes lubricant. 1 bucket of lubricant makes 1 speed upgrade, and you can put, I believe, up to 10 speed upgrades in any one machine like this to make it quite fast. But for now, we kind of just need to make sure that this always has lava, like this. We need to take the LPG that comes out. Again, I've got a tank here that's full of oil, so I'm going to need another tank if I want to be able to take that LPG out. We're then going to take the LPG from here, run that through here to get more plastic, and then we can take that plastic, of course, as long as there's lava down there, we could do the same kind of breaker module over here to make sure that works. But then once we have the plastic, we can use that to start making the printed circuit boards. And again, our goal currently is to make these 4 assembly items, and so we need to get just 1, 2, 3, 4 printed circuit boards. That is going to be a fair amount of plastic, though, because we need it for the transistors, the capacitors, and we also, I believe, need it for the empty PCB as well here. We do. You get 3 at a time, which is good, but we're going to need quite a lot of plastic. Okay, so if you cover the blocks here like this, I've covered everything with cobblestone, that does increase the temperature. We've gone up from 144 to 158, which means that this does work faster and loses heat more slowly, which is good. However, there is a better option, and that better option comes in the form of thermal lagging. This stuff right here, if I press shift, it says a thin layer of insulating material which can be applied to the surface of a heat-using machine to prevent heat loss to the air, does not block interaction with the block behind it. That's kind of the crucial part here. This stuff, super easy, just glass and wool. We'll make a bunch of this, and ideally then, we can just go ahead and not throw our pickaxe on the floor, but instead we can hopefully just do something like this to kind of cover up the machine, as it were, from a thermal standpoint without losing access to it physically, which is ideal. So if we just do all of this, and maybe even this, hopefully now if we put more lava down at the bottom, like that, it's going to get to a higher temperature, faster, and crucially, we can still access all the machines, unlike with the cobblestone, and also it doesn't look anywhere near as bad either. But yeah, you'll see we're going up a little higher here. We're at 144 first, then like 156. Now we're getting even higher, close to 200 here. So it is coming in a fair bit faster. The next piece of the puzzle, really, is the Vortex tube. This right here, if I hold shift, splits incoming air into hot and cold components. One side gets hot, the other gets cold. And the idea behind this, if we get some pneumatic tubing here, is I believe we can give this pressure, which we are producing, don't forget, over here, or we have the capacity to produce it. The idea behind this, though, I believe, is that we can then use it to heat up the refinery so we don't have to keep putting lava down. So if I put it, let's say here, can I put it down there? Also, can I get rid of this without breaking the block? I can, good. I want to try and put it down like this. I'm hopeful that, yes, the hot side is facing the right way. So if I get some pressure tubing, I believe that all we should have to do here is connect this up to pressure, and it should begin making the hot side hot and the cold side cold, which is exactly what we want. So can I just do this? I can. And then over here, we do have the ability, whoops, I should have connected this up before. There we go. That hopefully didn't lose too much pressure. Again, we do have automation over here to keep the pressure high, which is perfect. But over here, how is this doing? It's doing all right. You'll see that we don't have any lava underneath, but that the temperature in here is 129 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to where our LPG is being made. Again, not quite as fast. I do wonder, actually, if we, I mean, there's two options. One, we could double up. We could do this as well, which I think would push the temperature even higher. Alternatively, as well, we could go ahead and put either some more thermal lagging on the bottom, or we could put, cobblestone back in the hole as well. Both of those, I think, would solve the problem. For now, though, let's just do this. Let's take this out of here so that doesn't keep happening. And let's do this, like that. Cool. And hopefully that's going to keep the temperature relatively high. So long as it stays above 100°C, we should be fine. And I guess what we should probably do along the same lines is just make another Vortex tube and put that down right about here, like that, to allow this to also get the required temperature. Again, hopefully over here we are, I was going to say hopefully we're gaining in terms of pressure. As you can see, we are very much so not gaining in terms of pressure. But it's very slight. It looks like it is going down a little bit. If we can get a couple of speed upgrades, we could probably make this a bit faster. So in here, I think I've just taken out the plastic I have. I actually didn't want to take out the plastic. The plastic I want to turn into plastic. And then I kind of want to take out the other LPG. I believe that if we open this up, we can press the move fluid button. That's going to put the LPG in the output slot. We can then take it. Fantastic. And can I put that back in there? I cannot. That's fine. In that case, let me get yet another small fluid tank. The idea now is that I'm going to try and make just one or two of the speed upgrades. So I'm going to take the diesel that we have in here, the diesel being at the bottom. Let's take this. Let's put that in here. I believe that needs to be combined with redstone to make the lubricant. And then we can take those buckets of lubricant and use them to make speed upgrades. Those speed upgrades are going to allow us to make the compressors here just that little bit faster, which is going to allow us to not worry so much about making more compressors or keeping up with the usage of the Vortex tubes. So if I take this out, we don't even have enough to make a second bucket, which is horrible. But back over here, if I go speed upgrade, we should have everything to make at least one speed upgrade. And that one speed upgrade should make our air compressor here just that little bit faster. Although I do believe that we could potentially also take some of our other compressors over here to make things a bit better. There is the liquid compressor but that's probably not much better. It just uses liquids. We really want one of the advanced compressors, but the whole point of the process here is to make the advanced compressors. And so I guess we kind of just need to get more lubricant to make this work. But again, this thing is just not really fast enough. We can, of course, temporarily add more air compressors to the lineup here to try and get the temperature even higher. But yeah, I'm going to tinker with this for a little bit. I'm going to see about getting a bunch more plastic. And once we've got a decent amount of plastic, we'll look at making this assembly setup to get these PCBs and to get the advanced pressure pipes so that we can make the creative compressor. All right, so not too long later, and we made a few changes to the setup. We've put heat sinks on the back of the Vortex tube. These were super easy to make. They are just iron, compressed iron, and gold, and they just allowed the Vortex tube to get rid of a lot of the cold heat on this side, or the cold temperature, I guess, on this side, making the hot side hotter, I believe. We've also started using blazing blood in combination with the Vortex tube, just because the blazing blood is the hottest material that we have available to us, and it helps us to move through the crude oil here just a little bit faster. I've put down a few more air compressors, as well as made a few more speed upgrades to try and keep the air compressed, to try and keep our compression levels high, and keep our pressure ideally between 4 and 5, but you'll see we're not quite there just yet. And yeah, that's where we currently stand. I've been told, though, by the Twitch chat that there's potentially a better option instead of using the heatsink. That option is to get rid of the heatsink, like this, place down a chest, like this, and then add like a cooling frame, which is actually called a heat frame, this guy right here, to the chest. And I believe that it's called a heat frame, but I think it's going to allow us to cool the chest as well. And supposedly that's going to be a better, more efficient way of us getting plastic. So you take the heat frame, you right click it onto the chest like so, and you'll see that chest becomes very cold. It does say error at the top, which doesn't fill me with confidence, but if we were to go ahead and take some LPG, which we do have a decent amount of now, we've got 3.6 buckets worth, plus the extra 92 millibuckets in here. So we'll take all that out, 3.7 buckets. Again, that's going to be 37 plastic just on its own, if we put that in here with some coal. Thankfully, this is nice and fast, but supposedly, if I take the plastic out with this bucket and I put it into this chest, it gives us exactly 1 plastic. That was not what I was told. I was told that if we get it cold enough, there is a chance that we get 2 plastic instead of 1. That, though, is the case. So maybe it's a random chance, or maybe our chest just wasn't cold enough the first time we tried it, because we are getting 2 at a time now. I do wonder if I can use this small fluid tank to take this out. So we've got 16 buckets in here. If I take all 16 out and I put this in here, that does work. And it looks like it is a chance, but it looks like it's a pretty high chance. And so given how easy it was to set up, I feel like it was kind of worth it. You'll see that the temperature is going up quite fast. And I assume that as the temperature goes up, I'm looking at the top here where it says east temperature, that's our cold temperature. As that gets, like as we put this in here, that temperature goes down. And as that temperature goes down, it seems like we get less doubles and more singles, which is not ideal. But we got 51 plastic sheets here. We are going to need more than that, I'm almost certain of it, but things are coming together quite nicely. We can keep topping this up with crude oil. Occasionally, we can do something like this to get this to go a little faster. And of course, we can take out the plastic. As this is cold enough, we can put this in, and we can continue to get, hopefully, a slightly more plastic than we would have done previously, even if it's just like 1.5x, and maybe take it out occasionally to let it cool down a bit more. How are we doing on pressure? We're doing pretty well. And so now that we have some plastic, we can leave this to keep doing its thing for a second. We can begin working on actually getting the PCBs. So first things first, let me get this etching tank. The etching tank is pretty straightforward by the looks of it. We need some brick wall, and we also need some reinforced brick slabs, both fairly straightforward. And then we need, of course, yet another small fluid tank. Boom and boom. We'll take that, knock it off the list. The UV light box, also not too bad. Does require a PCB blueprint, which we're going to have to buy with the Amadron tablet. Let me bookmark that. We'll come back to that in a second. But the etching acid itself, I believe, is makeable in bucket form. If I type in etching acid, we can make the bucket of etching acid in the pressure chamber with gunpowder, rotten flesh, spider eyes, and a bucket of molten plastic. So let me take 2 gunpowder, let's take 2 rotten flesh, let's take 2 spider eyes, and let's take 1 bucket of molten plastic from here. Perfect. And then over here, if we put all of those into the pressure chamber using our chest, the pressure should be high enough. It needs to be between 1 and 5 bars, so that's going to be perfect. And then over here, that's going to pump it back around into the system, and so we should see some etching acid make its way back around into the system as soon as this is done with it, right? Where does this send to? Yeah, this just sends back around to here. That's actually completely perfect. Good. So that's going to get us our etching acid. We can put that into our etching tank. Thankfully, you don't have to do that multiple times. You only need one bucket of etching acid, and it is reusable inside of the etching tank. We then need to get some empty PCBs. For that, we're going to need to get some plastic sheets, some gold nuggets, and some redstone torches. Let's start with a couple of these. We don't need to make too many of them. Let's go for 12. So I'm going to do 4 plastic sheets. I'm going to do 12 gold nuggets. I'm going to do 6 redstone torches. How many redstone torches do we have? We got loads. So let's take 6 of those. Let's take 12 gold nuggets. So back over here, if I put in 4 of these with these 12 and these 6, I think that should be good to go. Did my etching acid get made? It did. Cool. So we can take that. We can right-click it into the tank. Fantastic. And in here, this is now ready to go. Over here, this is going to start making those PCBs. And so back over here, we should start to see these empty PCBs coming into the system. We need to take those and we need to run them through the UV light box. And so the UV light box, as we just saw, requires the Amadron tablet. The Amadron tablet requires a GPS tool, easy enough if you have the plastic, and it requires the air canister, also very straightforward. That makes us the GPS tool, and that gets us an Amadron tablet. The Amadron tablet then does need charging. I believe for that we want to get a charging dock, this thing right here, the charging station, will do the trick. Again, pretty straightforward, and if we place this down right about here, let's say, we can then put our Amadron tablet in, like so, and it is going to hopefully start charging if the pressure is high enough, which currently doesn't appear to be, but we don't need that much pressure in here. Then, to make this work, you pick a chest, you can shift right-click on that chest, that's going to set it as the input and output chest for your Amadron system. You can then right-click. We need the program drill assembly, we need this thing right here. We also need this, the PCB blueprint. So let me get 16 emeralds out of the system. We'll put those in the chest. And then now in here, if we click on this, right-click, place order, it's going to come and take 8 emeralds away from us. And by it, I mean one of the Amadron drones. There it is. They're going to take 8 emeralds. They're going to go away. And they're going to give us what we ordered. We can do the same thing as well with this guy here. Right-click to get one order, place order. You can order more than one if you want, but we only need the one. And so there's our drill program. Fantastic. We can knock that off the list. And any second now, we'll also get our PCB as well. And that PCB is going to allow us to make the UV light box. So over in here, our PCBs should be in. They are. Still being made by the looks of it. That's fine. This is done. Lovely. Let's get a UV light box. We need 3 redstone lamps. 1, 2, and 3. And then, boom, we have a UV light box. So we can put this down, let's say over here, like so. And we can put in our PCB. You can only put in one at a time. Also, I'm a fool. It needs to go where there's pressure. Let me put that over here. Let's do it. Maybe, oh gosh, we're getting a little cramped on this wall, but let's put it like here, like that. Pressure's still looking good, that's fine. In here now, if we put this PCB in, it's going to start doing its thing. So 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. We can make it faster. If I take these speed upgrades out, I can put those speed upgrades into here, and that's going to make it a little quicker. In fact, actually quite a bit quicker. It does slow down as it gets closer to 100, and so it's going to go faster at the beginning and get slower towards the end. And you've got to kind of take a gamble, I guess, as to when you take these out. You can leave them until they get to 100, but it's going to take a long time to get from, say, 90 to 100%, whereas getting to 90%, that's most of the way there. And then once these are at a point where you're happy with them being at a high enough percentage, we can take them out and we can put them in the etching tank, and that's where they're going to get turned either into these unassembled PCBs or into a failed PCB that you have to once again run through the UV light box. From there, we can then craft them with the transistors and capacitors. The transistors and capacitors are both made using the pressure chamber. That is completely fine. And so if we are going to set up the assembly units here, we need 4 of these printed circuit boards. And so that means we're going to need to get 8 transistors and 8 capacitors. That means a total of 16 plastic sheets with 8 redstone, which we already kind of have. That's fine. Let me get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's get rid of some of the stuff we don't need in our system right now. All of this can go. Then we also need a bunch of gold nuggets. If we're going to get 8 of these, we need 24 there, but then I believe this also needs gold nuggets. It does. And that's an extra 16 there. So 24 plus 16 is 40 gold nuggets. So we'll take 40 gold nuggets out of here. Let's do something like that. Perfect. Then we need slime balls. Those were for the capacitors. Again, if we're going to make 16, that's 16 slime balls. That is not a problem. Sky slime does work, I believe, so we don't have to worry about which one we use there. And I think that's kind of it. I think other than that, it's just the plastic. So back over here, let's start with the transistors. That was 8 plastic sheets. I believe 32 gold nuggets. Let me check that though. Yep. And 8 redstone. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. It is right. Yeah. Those are all going to go in. That's going to get us 8 transistors. And then we can put in another 8 plastic sheets with 16 slime balls and 8 gold nuggets. And that, actually 16, that's fine. We'll take those out. Cool. That should work. That should get us what we need. Over here, this is done. We'll put the next one in. And over here, this is now 100%, so it's guaranteed to succeed. And you'll see that it does take a little bit of time to etch, but that's fine. Again, I think temperature does make this faster. So I think if you were to do something like this, that would potentially, that would potentially etch quicker. Maybe. It does look like it. Etching time is going down every second, which is good. And so, yeah, that's kind of just what we need to do. Let me put in this, and this. We'll put all those in there. That's going to get us, is that right? No, it's not right. That's too many slime balls. There we go. We'll take 8 of those out. That is going to bring that together, and that's going to get us everything we need to make the PCBs for the assembly platforms and stuff. It's not all the PCBs we need. We are going to need more PCBs because we need to make all of the Flux compressors, but the good news is that once we have the assembly components, we can then use those to make the PCBs. All right, so we're onto our 4th PCB here. I did take this out with an etch success chance of only 84%. These 3 were all 100% guaranteed. I'm fairly certain this one is going to succeed. 84% is a very high etch success chance. Let me do this and this. We'll also do this and this while we're at it to keep that going. I'm very hopeful because this is the 4th and last one that we need. And it succeeded. Nice. Back over here, we do have all of our capacitors, 8 there, and our transistors. They are right there. Fantastic. And so boom, and whoops, and boom. That gets us 4 printed circuit boards. Nice. And so now we've got a fair amount of plastic sheets. We've got 31 now. I also think we might have a few more in here. We got 13. Plus we've got more LPG if we do need more. But now we can start knocking some of these tasks off the list. So let me unbookmark a lot of what's here. We've got a lot of this stuff already. We need to get an assembly platform. That is pretty straightforward. We do need 2 of these pneumatic cylinders. In fact, in total, we need 2, 5, 8, and 11. So we need 11 of these. These require these cannon barrels, which require more of these reinforced brick walls. Thankfully, those are very easy for us to make. Let's go ahead and make at least 6 of these. I think you get 2 of these pneumatic cylinders per, so we do need 6 to get 12, but that's fine. Let's do this and this. Let's go ahead and make 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. That should be enough to make 12 of these cylinders, assuming we have enough plastic, which I think we do. Let's not shift it in though. Let's do this and this, just so we don't waste any plastic unnecessarily. And then from there, can we make the assembly platform? We can. Check. Can we make the exporter? With a hopper, I believe that we can. Check. Can we make the importer? We can. Again, it's the same recipe, but backwards. Let's take a hopper and let's do this. Check. And then finally, we need the laser, which is just missing a red glass, which needs some regular glass. I don't think it has to be clear. And a red dye. The red dye we can get, of course, using our mystical petals. That is perfect. Let's wait until that is not clear glass. Boom, boom, and boom. And that is also that done. Check. Okay, so now we need to take all of this over to our somewhat fragile pressure area. I say fragile just because we don't have much pressure. So I believe here, oh, I think we also need a controller, right? I've got it in my, yeah, I think we also need this assembly controller, which I've not made. That isn't on the list of machines here, but it is on the list here. So we need 3 more to make this happen. 3 more PCBs. Of course we do, because we don't actually have the controller. I was going to say the controller is what connects to the pressure tube. All right, real quick, I need to get 6 more capacitors and transistors, as well as 3 more of these unassembled PCBs. That is fine. We do still have stuff going here. We can put another one in. We can keep that going over here. This is not going to be a problem. And not too long later, we've got 4 more of these, I guess, and a 5th one coming in, although we do only need 3. One thing I did do here, I did teach my system how to make the transistors and capacitors, just using the ME interface we already have here because it's a lot easier than trying to manually precisely put in the right ingredients, and it looks like we are good to go. So if I do this and this, that should get us 3 more printed circuit boards, which should, in theory, be everything for the assembly controller. It is indeed. And so now, back over here, we can place this down, like so. We can place the assembly platform down next to that, and then we just want to put down all the rest of these nearby. So let's put the laser here, let's put the export here, and let's put the import here. This is a little haphazard, but it should work. The general premise then is that we can take 2 chests, 1, 2, and not the rest of them. That's fine. We're going to put 1 chest down right here next to the export, and we'll put 1 next to the import. In fact, I'm going to put it here and here. We'll get rid of this chest. We don't need it. As long as it's next to the import and the export, it is fine. It can go on any of the sides. And then all we're going to do over here, this is getting pressure. Again, slowly, but now we can take these speed upgrades out and we can put them back into these other air compressors to get the pressure back up nice and quickly. In here, we can put in our laser drill card, this one right here, and we're going to put that in like this. And so now with this, we should be able to make these advanced tubes. After all of that, this is what we're here for. It's to make the advanced pressure tubing. We need 20 pressure chamber valve per. That should be fine. Back over here, let's see about pressure chamber valve. We need a load of the stuff, but again, thankfully, pretty straightforward. We're going to need more of these, but we have them. Let's take a bunch of that, and then over here, we're going to put these next to the import chest, so right here, and as soon as it has enough pressure, which it'll get very slowly but surely, it should start taking these pressure chamber valves, and it should start turning them into the advanced pressure tubes. Again, looking all the way back at this recipe, for the advanced liquid compressor, we need 8 of these, which means we need 16 pressure tubes, which means we need 320 pressure chamber valves. That's fine. Oh, we're doing more coal in this guy. I assume this one down here is doing all right. Yeah, those are still being fed automatically. That's good. But over here, that's going to start taking those, going to start processing them. We can put speed upgrades into here to make this faster as well once the pressure is high enough. Let me go ahead and get rid of things like the etch, like the UV light box right now. I don't think that's necessary. We could also probably get rid of some of the vortex tubes and stuff to really focus in on this, but I think it's going to be fine. It's getting there slowly but surely. And then other than that, it's just these flux compressors. As for the flux compressors here, we need 12 of these, which means we need 24 more printed circuit boards. Usually, there's a recipe to make the printed circuit board using the assembly controller here. However, it looks like in this pack, for whatever reason, that isn't possible. Oh, no, there is. I'm just incorrect. We still have to do this step with the transistors and capacitors, but instead of using the UV light box and the etching tank, we can now just put the empty PCBs directly into the input chest, and it will turn them directly into the unassembled PCBs that we normally get out of here. We then just need to craft them with the transistors and capacitors. And so what I'll do back over here is we'll go ahead, we'll kind of clear this recipe, we'll do something like this, and we will then teach this how to make that PCB part, that being this bit right here. So we need to say that you get 3 of these. Can I increase this number? I can't, but I think I can do 1, 2, 3 in a bit of a weird and roundabout way. And then it takes 1 plastic, 3 gold nuggets, and 2 redstone torches. That's fine. So 2 redstone torches, boom. Plastic, I don't know if we have any left in here. We do, but not the right kind of plastic. I need this kind of plastic, which we've got a little bit more of in there. LPG and stuff still being made, which is good. Once again, it was 1 plastic, 3 gold nuggets, 2 torches. So 1 plastic like that. And then we just need 3 gold nuggets. Let's take 1, 2, 3 of those, put it in and encode. And yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Again, slightly odd with the way we've set it up, but it will get the job done. And so in theory, if we had enough plastic, we could request the 24 PCBs. We are missing 7 plastic to make that happen. That's actually completely fine. We have that ready to go. So let's try that one more time. We don't quite need 24 of these, but we'll request 24 nonetheless. That's fine. They're all going to come in slowly but surely. And then once those are in, we can then craft them with the transistors and capacitors. We do still need to request those, but we also do still need to make those as well. And so I need yet more coal for both my air compressors, and I also need more coal for the LPG as well in there. So we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. That's going to get us more plastic. We can use that to make more plastic sheets. We can use that to make the transistors and capacitors. That's going to allow us to make the 24 PCBs required for these flux compressors. Over here, is this working? The answer is no. And the reason for that is unknown to me. What does it say here? Missing machine. Not all machines for the inserted program are present. Add 1 assembly drill So your assemble controller. Assembly drill, is that not what this is? Assembly program laser. Oh, I bought the wrong program. Thank you, chat. That is actually a relief because it means I don't have to make more PCBs for the right thing. That is fine. Let me rectify that. Put you back in here, back into the Amadron. I need the laser, which is this one. Let me try that. Place order. This should work and should hopefully begin taking these pressure chamber valves and turning them into the advanced tubing that we're after. That is probably going to be a little slow. We're probably going to want to make a lot more of these speed upgrades using some of the diesel that we have in here, trying to make that as fast as we can. Over here, let me check if we have those PCBs coming in. We do. We got all 24. Nice. Good. Over here, this is ready to go. Let's try that once again. Put you in here. Now, we should see this very slowly, but surely. It says resetting. Hopefully, once it's reset. Okay, I'm going to break it and replace it. We are going to lose some pressure for that, but that's not ideal. But if I do this and we do this, does that work? There we go. Okay, so it's going to slowly but surely grab 20 pressure chamber valve out of here. And I mean real slowly and real surely. And then it's going to bring it over. It's going to place it down. Of course, as I mentioned, we can put speed upgrades in here to make it faster, albeit at the cost of pressure, of course, which is not ideal. But this is going to work. It's going to make the stuff. It's going to put it in here. Of course, once we have like an advanced air compressor or even an advanced liquid compressor or even the flux compressor, we could potentially make one of these. We can use those initially before we use them for the creative compressor. We can use them initially to make advanced compressors. For example, if I make an advanced air compressor here, I believe we can then go ahead and place that down and it should just produce more pressure. It should just be a straight up upgrade over what we have here initially. So if we take this away, for example, and we put this down here, it can go higher on the pressure, but I do believe that even despite that, I think it should just go faster by default anyway. Like if I take these speed upgrades out of here, it looks like we're still doing all right. If I put like 2 in here, maybe, that's hopefully going to go up faster. And over here, we can do this to make this quicker as well. And that's just going to keep making more of those tubes. Perfect. Okay, that's good. So as I mentioned a second ago, we don't need that many of the advanced pressure tubes for this. We also don't need too many for this. Yeah, it's just a case of getting the printed circuit boards. All right, so I'm going to spend a bit of time getting more plastic for the transistors and capacitors, and hopefully, when we come back, we will have everything we need, maybe, to get this taken care of. So I'm making more plastic here, and one nifty little trick here is that we're going to start to back up, or you're going to start to back up on gasoline if you do this, as well as kerosene. The kerosene we don't really have much to do with just yet. You can just take it out and put it in a tank next to it so it doesn't clog up your system, because it will stop working if it doesn't have space to put stuff. But the gasoline here, we can put into a thermopneumatic processing plant. And as long as the thermopneumatic processing plant gets pressure, not heat, it will then start turning that gasoline into LPG, which is perfect. It might require a mixture, actually, it requires temperature and it requires the pressure. So I wonder if I can I could put it here, but I guess that's awkward because then it's going to start cooling that down. So I guess we maybe want it like here. Can I put it down there? It looks like it doesn't. Oh, that's because there's cladding here. If I get rid of this and I do this, that's going to go down. This just needs to be connected over here, which we can, of course, do like this. That's going to then hopefully start heating this up as well. It is. Good. And hopefully the heat gets high enough, as well as the pressure, of course, and both of those are hopefully going to combine to allow us to turn the gasoline into LPG. Then we can, of course, turn that LPG into plastic. It's slowly getting there. We could give it a slight nudge, of course, if we put down some more of the blazing blood. But I guess we could also do this. And you can't put it on that side, which is awkward, but it's fine. We got up to 300 degrees Celsius, so this is working. And then, of course, we can use our tank here to take the LPG out once this is done, put it back in, and it's going to give us a ton of stuff. And, of course, we can do this with the speed upgrades to make it faster. But never mind, that doesn't work. You can't put speed upgrades in here. It does tell you on the left-hand side what you can put in. And unfortunately, speed upgrades, not an option for this machine, but that's fine. These are coming in. We can put some coal in there to keep that coming in. And then we're just going to turn that into plastic because we need a ton of plastic for all 48 of the capacitors and transistors that we're going to need to make the 24 printed circuit boards. All right, so not too long later, we're finally getting somewhere. We are turning our empty PCBs that we made via our pressure chamber here into these unassembled PCBs using our new setup, which is working quite well. I have put a heatsink down on top of the advanced air compressor because it was running at a lower efficiency. Still is, it's at 57%. The colder this is, the more efficient it is. So we had it for a time where it was just burning a lot of fuel and not really doing much, which was not ideal. I've also made a ton more of these pure daisies so that we can do a bunch of exchanging. And I've been doing that kind of periodically whilst we work on getting more of those PCBs. Let's do this and this. I do believe we have all of the transistors and capacitors. We've got 48 and 48. Perfect. So those are good to go in terms of making the flux compressors. And over here, again, whilst all this has been happening, we've been working on making more atomic alloys so that we can hopefully get all of the chemical tanks, both ultimate, elite, and advanced, for that creative chemical tank. So all of that stuff is kind of coming together. Everything is actually pretty close to being done. So I think what we can do, first of all, is we can take all of these advanced pressure tubes and let's see if we can't craft up the compressors here. So we are trying to make the creative compressor. That's what all of this work has been for. And so we need 8 advanced liquid compressors and 8 advanced air compressors. We already have 1 advanced air compressor, and so we just need 7 more of those. That's fine. We can take the one that we have eventually and kind of repurpose that for the creative one. Let's do this, and let's do this, because we need to make a bunch of these. So we need 8 of these in total. We also need a ton of these, is what I was thinking of. Let me make really as many of those as we can. So let's do this. We're probably going to need more stone, of all things, because I think we're pretty low on it. And then let's do this and craft it into its brick form and get that back in the system. Then let's make as many of these just regular air compressors as we can for now. That number apparently was not very high. That's because our tubes are not in the system. 14. Then let's do this. And let's make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the advanced air compressors. We can check those off the list. Perfect. Then over here, liquid compressors. I don't think I have any. Oh, no, we do have the 8 in here. I made those earlier. Perfect. So then it's just a case of doing this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Good. We can check those off the list. And then now it is just the flux compressors. We need 16 of these. To make 16 of these, we're going to need 16 of these. That's completely fine. We could probably just make a stack of these because they're fairly easy, and we've got basically unlimited of all the resources. And then other than that, we do need some blast furnaces of all things. I need 16 of these. And again, we don't have enough regular furnaces for that, which is fine. We don't have enough cobblestone. Oh, no, we do have cobblestone. It's just not being compressed. That's fine. Let's do this. Let's do this. That's 8 more. That should be all of the blast furnaces that we need. Perfect. We do need to get these turbine rotors. We need 16 of these, which means that we need to get 48 of these turbine blades. Again, this is not too bad. 48 of these means 48 gold. I was going to teach it, but it's a one-time recipe that we only have to do one time. And so I guess we can just do 48 of the gold and 96 of the redstone. We'll then go and put those in over here like this. That's hopefully going to get us all of those blades. We can craft all of the turbine rotors. How are we doing over here? We have got 24. Nice, it's done. Good. Back over here, let's do something like this and this. That's going to get us 24 printed circuit boards. And so now it's just these turbine rotors that we need. And so we just need to wait for those turbine blades to come in, which should happen slowly but surely over here if the pressure gets up. I assume the pressure has just gone, like it usually drops when you put the items in, and now the pressure's going up. And as soon as it gets high enough, it should produce those blades. And in fact, they might already be in the system. They are. They're coming in slowly but surely. That's just the speed at which it ejects these. We can go ahead and take them and bring them over manually. So let's do this and this. That gets us 15 of the 16. Where's my last turbine blade? I've got no idea where that last turbine blade is. That's fine. We can do this and this. Be careful with the heat sinks, by the way. They get very hot. This one is currently at 126 degrees Celsius. Hopefully this is going to work. I don't know what happened to that last blade there. I don't know how we managed to lose one, but either way, we do have what it takes to make, I believe, 15 out of the 16 of these flux compressors. If we do this and this, there's 12, and that's it. Now that we have the 12 flux compressors, I think we're good to go. Let me take everything out of here and put it into here. We then, of course, need 8 ultimate singularities, and as per usual, we need to get the ultimate components, and we need 1 ultimate catalyst. I think, though, that's everything for this. Oh, that's an ultimate catalyst. I need the ultimate catalyst, not to be confused there, which is this guy. Boom, and boom. Flippin' heck. Chat, that, I think, is going to be by far and away the hardest part of this whole, remaining crafting line, which is good. So, now that that's off the list, we need a few more items. We need the creative chemical tank. That's this guy here. We need the storage upgrade, the creative storage upgrade. We need the creative ME cell. What's it called? It's called the creative energy cell. Of course, creative energy cell. Boom. And we need the everlasting guilty pool. These are the final items on our list. And I think we can make all of them. So for the creative chemical tank, we need 28 ultimate chemical tanks. Then we need 16 of the elite chemical tanks. Then we need 8 of the advanced chemical tanks. And we need 4 of the basic chemical tanks for a total of 56 chemical tanks. And so I do think, as per usual, it's probably in our best interest to teach our system just how to make these chemical tanks. Let me dump some stuff out of my inventory here. Back over here, let's just take out all of these netherite crafts because we don't need these anymore. In fact, I'm fairly certain that if we were to go and check over by our netherite production, that we are good to go on the netherite. So let's encode this. Make sure we're in the crafting pattern, Isaac. Encode this, encode this, encode this, and finally encode this. I'm pretty sure we have all of the items required here, so we'll just put these in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then let's see here. So chemical tank. I would like to request 56 basic chemical tanks. Start. That should not take long at all. They're all going to come in. Then I would like to request the remaining. We need 52 advanced chemical tanks. We need to take all the initial ones and craft them down. That's all good to go. We can take the 4 out of here. And of course, they don't stack. That would be far too easy. 2, 3, 4. We're going to put those in here. We then need 8 of those remaining advanced chemical tanks. And so we need to request that 46 of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 44 of those be upgraded to Elite 44 and start. Let's put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 advanced in there. Perfect. And then once all those are done, we need 28 of those to be turned into ultimate. So let's take all of those out, making sure there are 28 left in, and then let's request 28 ultimate. And assuming we have enough atomic alloys, which we do, we can hit start, and that is all just going to come together. Substantially easier, of course, than getting that compressor. The creative compressor took so much work, but now we can go ahead and get yet another one of these ultimate catalysts. We can take out all of the remaining chemical tanks. It might take more than one trip here because there are quite a few of them. That is fine. Let's dump all of these in. We have also seemingly gathered a wandering trader at some point, but that is fine. Take all of these out, put all of them into here, and assuming we have enough ultimate catalysts, which over here we've got 52 netherite catalysts. That's how long it took to get all the other stuff there, but there are hopefully the remaining 12 ultimate singularities. I assume that's all that we need. In here, let's do this. 12 doesn't feel like enough. There's a creative chemical tank. Do I have singularities in here? I do. I've got 11 of them. That's perfect. That's good. So we can untick that. Then we've got the creative energy cell here. This requires 8. And then here, this only requires 7, which is perfect. That gets us to 15. So as for the energy cell, did we request earlier the dense? We didn't. So here, we need 28 plus 16 dense energy cells. That's 44 of these. So 44. Start. We are missing, surprisingly still, 800 flux dust. That's fine. We did crush some earlier. There's 2 things that could have happened here. Either 1, this is not connected, or 2, we just didn't put enough in. That's fine. We can put more in and wait for that to come in. We then also did request, I believe, the regular energy cells. We did. So we can take those 12. We can put them in here along with the 8 ultimate singularities. We do need 16 of these ultimate components. So let's do that. Then we need 4 more of those again to make yet another one of these guys. We can put those in as well. Boom and boom. And at that point, I think it's just more of the flux dust, and then we just request the craft, and that should be good to go. So let's take even more of this, and then back over here, let's do this again. We could have taught this for sure. We could just request it, but it's the last little bit that we need to do. Let's see about the dense energy cell. How are we looking here? If I want 44 of these, still missing 550. It's going to take a minute there. That's fine. While we wait for that, let's take a quick look at the everlasting guilty pool. We have the mana tablets, we have the components, we have the singularities. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need 12 plus 5, 17 mana pools. How many mana pools do we have? We have got 1 mana pool. Thankfully, we've been periodically getting more and more living rock. So if we do this, we can get ourselves up to 17 nice and quickly. Perfect. And then from there, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 fabulous mana pools. Right now, we have got 6 fabulous mana pools, which means we need to get quite a few more. We need to get 17 more. And so if we want to get 17 more of those, we need quite a bit more of this shimmer rock. let's just craft as much as we can. And then from there, we can do this. That takes us to 12. How are we doing on living rock? We got 348. 348 divided by 5 is 70. So I think we have more than enough living rock to make the remaining mana pools here. We just need more of the Bifrost block. So we just need to take more regular glass and run it through first our mana pool, then our Elven portal, and then the Rod of the Bifrost, and we should be good to go. So for that, I think it's basically going to just be a case of dropping like a stack of glass onto each of these mana pools here, and then running all of that, of course, through our Alpine portal. We might need to put a little bit more mana into both of those pools, but to be fair, I'd be surprised. I feel like it's a surprisingly efficient crafting setup, and it doesn't really use that much mana to make this happen, and so it should just be a case of waiting for that to come through. In fact, we can go and do other stuff whilst we wait for that to come through. For example, I think we could still get yet more Flux dust, so we should be getting pretty close, actually, because 500 is not that much Flux dust that we need. Let's put all that in there. Let me do one more request here before we actually do the request, because I think we're pretty close. Yeah, we're missing 33, which is going to come in any second. Now, what are we missing here? Nothing. Start. Cool. And so once all those are in, which again, I don't think is going to take too long. I don't think there's anything in there really that requires a seriously large amount of crafting. In fact, it's just the nether quartz here. So I'm going to take the Flux crystals out so that the nether quartz can get crushed. Back over here, do we have 4 stacks of this glass? We do not, and that is because of a mana shortage. That is fine. We have these mana tablets. Obviously, we do need them to be full, but we have a ton of mana over here that we can tap into. So for now, we can do something like that, and that's hopefully going to get the glass production back up and running there, which is perfect. Once we got a little bit out of here, I'll probably move it over to this one, because I imagine that's also not got a ton in there, but the glass is coming in. We just need to take it and, of course, craft that with the Rod of the Bifrost. Over here, let's do a quick one of these to refill that back up. Thankfully, the mana tablets do not despawn, which is perfect. So let's do this, and this, and this. We'll take all of those. Lovely. Let's do... I feel like we might as well just take our living rock and craft those. I was going to say craft those straight into the mana pools, but I guess we can do this, and then we can do this, and this. That takes us to 35, which I think is more than enough. And so I'm pretty sure that we're good to go on that point. Let me take this out. Let's get those mana tablets. Let's put some other stuff away into the system. Let's take all of these. Let's also go and grab this guy, who is hopefully full once again. We need the catalysts, which we have. I think we're good to go here. Let's do this and this. Perfect. That is the Everlasting Guilty Pool, infinite mana, taken care of. Back in here, let's get even more of our patterns, and let's teach our system, ideally, how to make the different tiers of storage for storage drawers right here. It already knows how to make the tier 5 version. Let's teach it the tier 4. Let's also teach it the tier 3. Let's teach it the tier 2. And it should already know the upgrade template, because it knows how to make the highest tier. So in here, we can take out these chemical tanks now. These are not going to be needed, and we can put in these guys. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So, as always, we need quite a lot of these tier 5 upgrades. In fact, let's go ahead and request 60 of those. That's overkill. Then let's request 60 of these, and then we don't quite need 60 of the tier below that. Let's go 40. And then we need 8 of the tier 2 versions. That's these ones here. Let's go 10, 9, 8, start. And then we just need 1 upgrade template, which I'll just take out of here. And I think that's that one taken care of. You can see why I wasn't really too worried about that one being difficult for us, because this one is by far and away the easiest of all of those. Boom. And then it's just the creative energy cell. Dense. Is the dense stuff done? It is. Okay, what are we missing? We are just missing the catalyst stuff. Chat, it's taken a very, very, very long time, but I believe as soon as we have 20 of these, we can craft up 1 more ultimate catalyst, and with that, we have crafted all of the creative crafts required for that quest line. And with that, I'm going to call it there for Sky Bees 2. There are other quests we can do. You know, we could go through and do some of these individual quests manually just to tick them off, but some of these are just a bit unnecessary, I think. For example, there's this power quest line, which we have made this stuff, but we didn't craft it in the right order, or we didn't get it at the right time. And so, you know, you can go through and craft each tier of generator all one at a time, but I think it's a little unnecessary. And then the final quest line here is just to complete all the other quest lines. As soon as you complete a quest line, which we've done, by the way, there we go. The only quest line we've completed apparently is creative, but as soon as you complete all of them, then you get the tick box and you get the thanks for playing. I'm not going to do that because it's mostly just a case of standing here and kind of micro-crafting all of the parts. Like, we can do it. We can craft most of what's here, but it's just a case of just crafting a lot of little things, you know, for the sake of crafting them. Having each tier of factory in your inventory instead of using the installer, it's just busy work, I think, for the most part, which I'm not going to bother with too much. But yes, that is all the creative items. We now have creative compressor, we've got the creative chemical tank, we've got the creative everlasting maniple, we've got the creative storage upgrade, and we've got the creative energy cell. Flipping egg. It has taken a while. We've got quite the setup over here for the Netherite, and we had so many bees and such a big smeltery, but it's been a good pick. I have enjoyed it thoroughly. I really like the bees. I do think they go a little too hard. I think you need too many of them, I think. I think if the like singularity recipe requirements had been a little lower, like maybe 1/10 of what they were, if we'd have needed like 14,000 of each ingredient instead of 141,000 of each block, I think this would have been a much nicer pack, and one that I would have enjoyed more. Not that I didn't enjoy it, I did enjoy it, but I think that just setting up this many apiaries was just a little bit overkill, especially given that you can't upgrade these elite centrifuges any further. You just need way too many of them, in my view, to make it all happen. And yeah, but anyway, we got there in the end. I enjoyed the pack. If you enjoyed watching the series, be sure to go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already to get notified as soon as the new series starts. I'll be back very shortly with a new modded Minecraft playthrough. For now though, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.